I got two more questions for you before we go. Next one. Which fall marathon has the best American field? So put men and women together here. We wouldn't say Berlin. London doesn't
No.
really have that many Americans. So I think this would be between the three U.S. marathons: Chicago with Rupp, Hall, and that deep women's field. New York, we talked about the New York field with Jared Ward, Ben True on the men's side, and on the women's side, you have the Olympic team featuring Molly Seidel. You have Emily Sisson. You have Des Linden, and then Boston, where the strength is really the women's side, where you have Huddle, Linden, and Hesse.
So when you combine men and women, right? The women are so much better. So all the women's fields just look great, right? Chicago looks good with D'Amato and Hall. Boston looks good with Linden, Hesse, and Huddle. New York looks good because it has the Olympians. And then when you think about just like what looks good for men, it's really Rupp and then everyone else. Like, who is the second best marathoner on the men's side?
Oh, was it Jake Riley?
But like, is it? Maybe that's just one race. But like,
Yeah. Yeah.
in whole, who would you say is the second best marathoner on the men's side?
Yeah, I guess
Who would
you'd
have said?
say consistency-wise, you'd say Jared Ward over the last couple of years. He's the one who's showing up to all
Yeah,
these races and has the potential to get in the top five. But I think it's New York because the women's field, you have the medalists, plus you throw in Linden, which you already have in
yeah.
Boston, plus you throw in Sisson, who's going to be running the third marathon of her career. She's an exciting prospect. We saw how well she did in the 10K. And then the
And Kellen
men are
Taylor.
pretty Kellen Taylor. Yeah, it's a deep field. And then the men are interesting too because you have Ward, as I mentioned, but you have the debut factor with Ben True.
Ben True.
And the debut factor always grabs our interest because we're like, could they be? Could this be the one? Could this be the next American star? Even though he's been around for a while? Maybe he's got a couple years left at the marathon. So I think it's New York.
Yeah, I guess I would only say Chicago if the weight of Galen Rupp just like makes up for any other depth of men, right? Like, would you rather have a field with Galen Rupp on the men's side or a field without Rupp and a bunch of other guys? I don't know.
Here's the
I
problem though.
think New York. The women is so much good too. I feel like the women are good in all three: Chicago, Boston, and New York. I feel like it's kind of equal. I'll probably rank it Boston, New York, Chicago, but it would be 1A, 1B, 2A in my mind.
Yeah.
So I'll go with
I
New
just like
York. New York is the best American field. I'll say it. New York's best American
yeah.
field.
Yeah. I want to see Seidel again. I want to see Sisson in a marathon. You got Linden doubling back. Like, what if she runs great in Boston? And then we're like, wait,
Yeah.
hold on. Can she podium in two marathons? I like the women's field in that one. The problem with Chicago on the men's side with Rupp is it's a victim of his own success. If he could win that field, or he could win that race against that field, which would be tough, but we'd still be like, well, we've seen him win a major before. Like, we've seen that happen before. Doesn't make it any less impressive, but like the list of people that we want to see Rupp beat, none of those people are on this roster of people running. So it's going to be tough for him to win one. And even if he did, I know it's a little contradictory to say, but even if he did, we'd say, well, man, it'd be awesome to see him against, like if we saw Rupp v. Bekele or Rupp v. Well, we just saw Rupp v. Kipchoge, and we know how that went. But that would be one of those battles. Like if we saw Rupp versus Bekele, that'd be one of those races where just because of the names in it, everybody's going to be drawn to it. Everybody would be drawn to it, and it would seem like this big clash of the Titans.